The Tyranny of Merit is a book by American political philosopher and Harvard professor of government Michael Sandel. The subtitle is, Can We Find the Common Good? That book inspired this week's podcast. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. On each episode of my weekly podcast, a different topic, discussion, or story from our lives.
Season 15, Chapter 11.
The Tyranny of Merit. The title alone caught my interest, obviously chosen for that reason. Merit, good. Tyranny, bad. Is this about the bad of being good? The tyranny of merit? But as you dive into this matter, it gets more and more interesting. And believe me, I'm not trying to sell books for Michael Sandel here. I just think he has an idea, a point of view that is worth exploring at a time when individual merit has come into question, and when merit is being used as an argument against diversity, equity, and inclusion. The term meritocracy has gained a lot of momentum in the last few years. It is used by some in a positive way, and by others as a mask for racism. Here are some of the comparisons we make. Theocracy. Religious leaders hold the power. Aristocracy, kings and queens. Autocracy, one dictator or tyrant. Democracy, the people vote in a fixed political system. Or meritocracy, people at the top in leadership positions who earned their way to the top. They got their certificate of merit in one form or the other, like a diploma, a letter of recommendation, etc. And only those people of merit are the managers, the leaders, the presidents and prime ministers. Meritocracy ensures that we get the best and the brightest. Don't we want the best and the brightest? It becomes so easy to believe that the free countries of the world should be meritocracies. Sounds good. Or is it? Let's start, as Michael Sandel does, with the state of the world and the state of politics. You know, just last year we set a record for the number of national elections around the world. At least 64 countries voted for presidents, prime ministers, parliaments, and other national houses of government. And yes, many of those elections came around by natural voting regulations and timing. But what it was really about was change. People were unhappy with the status quo. People unhappy with political discourse. Instead of communities, we formed tribes. Tribes based on values and identity. And how do we get back to more civil times? How do we reinvent political discourse? How do we get to freedom and justice for all? Sandel begins at justice. Justice, one of the world's oldest philosophical discussions. Justice. We want a just society. Or, in other words, who deserves what and why? That's a good question. It's a question of merit, if you think about it. Who deserves what and why? The author uses a very real and concrete example of a professional athlete. You can use any high-profile, high-paid athlete. You can go back to a Gretzky or LeBron James, Lionel Messi, or the LA Dodger sensation Shohei Ohtani. You got one? Okay. Now, think of a favorite high school teacher you had, the one that influenced you the most, the one you'll never forget. Got it? All right. Shohei Ohtani, in 1 year, will earn approximately 1,000 times more than your favorite high school teacher. 1,000 times more than most doctors or nurses, firefighters or police officers. Does he deserve it? There will be a lot of no answers. A lot of people who believe that our reward system is skewed. We admire the wrong people. We don't give enough to some, too much to others. On the other hand, many will say, yes, he does deserve it. He's an industry onto his own, attracts millions of fans, inspires kids all around the world. He should be compensated commensurate with those factors. You take anyone in sports or entertainment or business or even politics, those who are very successful in their endeavor. usually receive a significant compensation. This takes us to the bigger question. How should society's rewards be distributed? Well, easy. The market decides, right? Or not right? I mean, the market has already decided, hasn't it? We bestow greater rewards upon a professional athlete than we do a paramedic. So then we start to think that a guy like, say, Lionel Messi must have had advantages that allowed him to rise to the top of his athletic world. He must have had the coaches and training, the encouragement of family, the health and nutrition to be able to train and accomplish. And that if everyone else had that advantage, we'd have a lot more of the Messis and the Otanis, or even the Musks for that matter. It's like we're saying everyone has the potential, just not the means or access to rise to the top. So let's say we do that. We somehow manage to give everyone the exact same opportunity to, say, win the race. Everyone can start at the same starting line. Everyone will have the best running shoes and best coaching and the proper diet. Then wouldn't it be a fairer race? Then and only then would we see that the winner truly had merit, would truly deserve to be a winner, and then receive everything that society deems comes with that. Is that fairer? Is that a more just society? It's not a new idea. In different ways, we've been trying to do that for a long, long time. There's a video out there about kids who are offered $100 if they can win a short foot race. They all line up at a starting point, but then are asked questions and are forced to take steps back or forward depending on their socioeconomic status and upbringing. It's an experiment that highlights a problem, that not everyone starts at the same place. So even if you're the fastest runner, you may not win.
Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from. Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. Has nothing to do with decisions you've made. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100. Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start.
It's a great video. There's a few versions of it out there. You can YouTube search it if you like. But it's a story we've accepted as true in our world. That if you are black or brown or a woman or an immigrant or, you can still get to the top. You just have to fight more, run faster, work harder. So back to this idea, morally as a society, we decide, and let's say that we could do it, to have a level playing field. Everyone gets the same opportunity. Then the winners, the top finishers in this race of life, would be so deserving. Here's the point. Even with the same opportunities, the shoes, the training, the nourishment, someone will still win that race, and someone will finish last. Because we've called it a race. Because someone will have that talent, the innate ability to be the swiftest. We look at someone like Wayne Gretzky, and people say, he put in the work, the training, the 10,000 hours and more on and off the ice, that it was also effort and hard work that led to his success. And don't we want to live in a world where we reward effort and hard work? Yeah, but you and I could put in all that work, all those hours, and we'd never be close to being the athlete that Gretzky was. It is his fortune of birth to come into this world with a talent for the game of hockey, however nurtured and encouraged it was in the future. It was also his luck to be born at a time when hockey was popular, and people were willing to pay millions upon millions to one person to join their team. Wayne could have been born in Poland in 1939, where his amazing hockey skills would be largely ignored as Hitler invaded the country. He could have been born in Canada in 1959, where even the best hockey players had to get summer jobs just to make ends meet. He wasn't. It was his good fortune to be born in an age where we attach merit to his skill set. The point is, if society today bestows great rewards on what largely may be someone's good fortune and luck to be born with a talent in the right place at the right time, how is that a fair and just society? How is that rewarding merit? And if so, is rewarding merit a good basis for a just society, a fair society? You see, now we're getting to the crux of this. So let me repeat that. Is rewarding merit a good basis for a just society? And remember, what we're trying to get to here is that merit has become a tyrant. And we don't want to be ruled by a tyrant, do we? At this point, Michael Sandel takes it back to political discourse and our dissatisfaction, our unhappiness. What we've seen for the last 40 years or so is a deeper, wider socioeconomic divide. Economic? Well, yeah, there's a greater wage disparity, a bigger gap between the rich and the poor, but also, on the socio side, a greater gap between the perceived winners and losers. Those who end up at the top of the heap, they are perceived as winners, and they perceive themselves as deserving of their status, socio and economic. Their success is their measure of the merit. And by implication, those who struggle, who are losers, therefore must also be deserving of their lot. This belief is at the center of so-called meritocracy. If all is equal, those who rise must be there by their merit. And isn't that as it should be? But as we know, things are not equal. And we try and make it so. And even if we somehow managed, there would still be a question of merit. Accomplishment by merit. Success by merit. We all started equal, or let's say we did. Why did I win and they lost? I must somehow be deserving. I have merit. You see, the same question remains about a fair and just society. Let me add this now. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. The DEI initiatives. People mistake this because they are not about evening the playing field, in my opinion. You have to have a level playing field long before you ever get to the D or the E or the I. As a matter of fact, diversity, equity, and inclusion are added meters by which we could measure merit. A little more on that later. Meanwhile, in our current system, the closer we come to a level playing field, the closer we come to a truer meritocracy. The closer we come to a meritocracy, the greater the tendency to believe that those at the top are there by their own doing, their own merit. They deserve to be there. And those on the bottom also deserve their fate. This is, in fact, the dark side, the tyranny of merit. Quote from Michael Sandel: meritocracy creates hubris among the winners and demoralization among those who are left behind.
It leads the winners to inhale too deeply of their own success.
And forget about the luck and good fortune that help them along their way and leads them, and many of us, to look down too often upon those who struggle.
On those who struggle.
Unquote. So what is the alternative to meritocracy, according to author Michael Sandel? Well, let's wrap our head around this alternative. It's a new way of conceiving life, a public life, a life that focuses less on winning the race or getting to the top, and more on those who are trying to make life better for everyone, who contribute to the common good by the work they do, the families they raise, or the communities they serve. A public life not about winning a race, but about the dignity of work, of life, of existence. MLK Jr. once said that all labor has dignity. The dignity of work is the alternative to the tyranny of merit. It requires a moral or an even spiritual awakening, especially by those who have seen success in their life Rather than believing I deserve to be here, they should be more appreciative of the luck that allowed them to achieve. And by looking at those who did not, and say, there but for the grace of God or the twist of fate, go I. It's called humility, thereby being able to assume greater responsibility for the common good. It's not communism, it's not socialism, it's humanity, it's virtue. It could possibly move us away from the harsh, divisive tyranny of success, the success by so-called merit. And there, in these few minutes, is the gist of Michael Sandel's book called The Tyranny of Merit. Can we find the common good? I love this idea. Don't know how it's going to work. It requires a huge moral shift, a rethink, a reboot, a restart of our attitudes. Justice. Who deserves what and why? Meritocracy, on face value, sounds pretty good. But upon further review, it may be what's killing us. The evil tyrant running our lives. People hide behind it. They hide their racism or even a simple bias behind it. Why don't we just hire the best person for the job? Well, define best person. Yeah, you want the most qualified surgeon or airline pilot, but there's this false belief out there that we're not getting the most qualified person, and that applicants are being put in because of their minority status. Maybe that happened out there, I don't know. But it's not a common practice. Among equally qualified people, did a minority candidate have an edge because the job place was too white? Maybe. People get so upset by that, But did you ever ask, for how many decades did the most qualified person not get the job because they were part of a minority? Oh, it's reverse discrimination. Well, there's no such thing. There's no reverse discrimination. There's only discrimination. People say DEI programs are like putting a thumb on the scale. Well, is it? I'll take my thumb off the scale if you take your thumb off the scale. Closing down DEI programs across America is discrimination. It's racism. And it's being cloaked by this idea of meritocracy. Listen for people using the word meritocracy as an excuse. Some don't genuinely understand what it means, and others use it as a cover for racism and bigotry. DEI, diversity. It refers to the presence of variety within a workplace, including gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability, race, culture, class, or opinion. Equity refers to concepts of fairness and justice, such as fair compensation and substantive equality, as well as allocating resources and decision-making authority to groups who have historically been denied access. Inclusion. It refers to creating an organizational culture where all employees feel included. Their voices are heard. They have a sense of belonging and integration. Donald Trump recently had the audacity to blame the air crash over the Potomac on DEI programs within the FAA. It's unbelievable. DEI is not incompatible with meritocracy, although the more we learn about meritocracy, DEI does less to aid that and more to ensure the dignity of labor. Why would you want to end that? Why are so many big corporations being bullied into pulling those programs? Again, it's not about a level playing field. As I said, those kind of efforts have to begin much earlier in life. Kids have to have equal access to education, enough nourishment to get through a day, being able to live in safe neighborhoods. They have to be accepted regardless of the race, color, creed, orientation. If we could only all start there, that would be fair and just. And do we not want to live in a fair and just society? Hey, remember this as a kid? You'd go, hey, that's not fair. How many parents said, hey, life's not fair, kid? Not too early to learn that lesson. Well, why isn't it fair? Why do we just accept that? Why aren't we working to make it a little more fair? And I know, I sound a lot like a soccer mom on the sidelines, right? Everyone's a winner. There are no losers. Everyone gets a participant trophy. You get a merit badge just for being. You know, it's not a bad idea.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.